Hey guys, just a heads up, I do have an official Discord server up and running now, so if you want to interact with me or the community a bit more, feel free to join up by checking out the link in the description below. Now on to today's video. So we've talked about the gunsmith a handful of times on the channel in the past. We know just how complex and intricate it is, we know there's the ability to make secret or hidden weapon variants, and in general it offers a ton of variety when it comes to your class customization in-game. But with 50 plus attachments available on most weapons, there's, well, a lot to choose from there. So today we're going to be breaking down the best attachments in every attachment category. That way, moving forward, you can have a solid idea of what's going to be the best things to build your class around. But before we jump into that, hey hi, how you doing? If you are new here, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on if you want to stay up to date with the latest Call of Duty news and intel. And of course, if you enjoyed the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And now let's get into the best attachments in every category here in Modern Warfare. So things can be a little tricky across the board when it comes to singling out one specific attachment in each of the 9 categories we have. Those being muzzle, barrel, laser, optic, stock, underbarrel, ammunition, rear grip, and also perk. Now, certain weapons have their own unique attachments, and others have ones that essentially do the same things, but they're just named differently depending on the weapon we're looking at. So there will be some more in-depth discussion for some of the options we have today, but there's also some pretty clear standouts as well. So just getting into it, starting off with the muzzle category, here for the most part we have the same set of attachments for the majority of the weapons in the game. Things like the muzzle brake, the suppressors and whatnot are pretty standard on a lot of the guns we have available, so this is actually a pretty easy category to pick out the best of the best. Now, depending on your class setup, you are probably looking at either reducing your recoil or suppressing your weapon, as most of the muzzle options fall into one of those two categories. So for recoil help, the compensator seems to be the best choice there. Most of the pro players will end up flocking to the compensator as it helps with both accuracy and control while slightly decreasing the mobility of the weapon. And when compared to the muzzle brake, which sort of does the same thing, the pros it offers are a bit more well balanced. Then if you are looking at weapon suppression, here the obvious choice is going to be the monolithic suppressor, because on top of just suppressing your gun, this option also extends the damage range as well, which is not something you normally see with a suppressor, but in this case it can be pretty useful. Now just keep in mind you will see some mobility drawbacks with those aforementioned attachments. However, that can be easily countered with some attachments we'll be breaking down a bit later on into the video. Anyways, jumping over to the barrel category now, this one is honestly one of the trickier ones because we do have a lot of different barrels to choose from, at least as far as the titles of each of them go. There's not really a ton of standard barrels from weapon class to weapon class or even from weapon to weapon, but the effects of many of them do end up being pretty similar. So most of the time, the best barrel choice for a well-rounded class is going to be one that increases the damage range, the bullet velocity, and also the recoil control. Now, there are some barrels that do help with ADS speed, and those can be useful on the right class, but quite honestly, the range and recoil-based barrels are going to be the most effective since you can't really get those pros in many other areas, whereas mobility increases are actually quite common amongst other categories. That said, the things like the subsonic integral suppressor on the MP5 and also the Predator barrel on the M4 can help a lot with a stealth-based class, so in one-off situations like those, definitely take some of those other options into consideration. But ultimately, the best barrel choice is going to be a barrel that extends the range and also increases the recoil control, while slightly decreasing some of the mobility. Now getting into the lasers, here we don't really have a ton of variety, and honestly these are all pretty standard. We've got the 1mW, the 5mW, and the TAC lasers available to choose from, and each of them do have their own individual pros. The 1mW laser I honestly don't see as being super useful, just because it only helps with hip-fire accuracy, whereas the other two are a bit more beneficial to certain playstyles. So the 5mW laser is going to be great for players who constantly rush around and just play very aggressive, but also use tactics like pre-aiming and sprint jumping around corners, because that laser is only going to be visible to the enemies when you are not sprinting or aiming down sights. Then, on the contrary, the TAC laser is going to be a bit more beneficial for those who just want a little extra help in the accuracy department, as this laser does not show up when your weapon is at the hip, but instead while ADS'd, and it ends up helping with the aiming stability, so you'll experience less sway with a slightly faster ADS speed. So when it comes down to it, for more aggressive players, the the 5mW laser is probably the better choice, whereas for more conservative players, the tac laser could be the better option for you. Next up, we've got the Optic category, which honestly isn't so tricky as much as it is simply based on preference. Some players like certain sights, others don't, and obviously certain sights will work better on certain weapons. Personally, I love using the Cronin LP945 Mini Reflex, the GI Mini Reflex, the Viper Reflex, and also the Solo Zero Optics Mini Reflex on any rifles, SMGs, and light machine guns that I don't like the iron sights on. However, for more long-range based weapons like the marksman rifles and the sniper rifles, I would then choose to go with the VLK 3x optic and the sniper scopes. But once again, this one is really based on preference at the end of the day. Continuing on, we then get into the stock category, and honestly, I feel like the stocks this year, despite there being more variety with them, are not always the most vital part of a setup. However, without a doubt, where they are available, the skeleton stocks are definitely the best choice. But unfortunately, they're not all that common, which leaves stocks that help increase ADS speed as my preferred selection when it comes down to it. The stocks that help with aiming stability just don't really stand out to me, and those that increase aim walking movement speed don't seem all that significant either. So this one is just really a process of elimination, I guess. Anyways, following that up, we then have the Underbarrel category, and here we've got plenty of options to choose from on quite a few different weapons. However, a select few underbarrels definitely stand out to me. For starters, the snatch grip on the PKM is by far one of the best grips in the game, but as far as the more standard options go, the Commando foregrip seems to be the most favored by the pro players, and after that, the Ranger foregrip seems to be another great option too. We then get into the ammunition category, which is another tricky one because there's just not that many universal options here. There are quite a few weapons which have ammo conversions available, and for those, sometimes they're useful and sometimes they're not. It really just comes down to the individual weapons themselves. So things like the AUG with the 5.56 ammo, then the MP5 with the 10mm ammo are going to ultimately be great choices, whereas other times it's really just extended magazines up for grabs, which I would say really in most cases are not all that vital. However, for CQC based maps where reloading can oftentimes lead to you being taken out, they can come in handy, but you do have to be mindful of the mobility decreases they oftentimes carry with them, especially on those larger magazine options. Then we jump over to the rear grip section, and honestly, I'm just going to keep it short and sweet here, alright? 99% of the time, the stippled grip tape is the way to go. I know, I'm just a broken record in this case, but seriously, the pros of the stippled grip tape are just simply better than all the other options, and yeah, that's the end of that. And then finally, we've got the perk category to round things out for today, and once again here we do have a handful of options to choose from. However, these are a bit more unique in the sense that they don't really come with cons, and instead they simply add a little something extra to your weapon that you just can't get out of any regular attachments. So here, the standouts to me are going to be frangible wounding, which delays enemy health regen, then fully loaded, which gives you extra ammo, and above all, sleight of hand, which can seriously help when it comes to playing around a more run and gun playstyle. So when you are jumping onto the game next and you're looking to build a new setup, definitely keep in mind the standout choices we have in each of these categories moving forward. And also I should note that standalone, yeah, some of these attachments might not seem all that great, and even when pairing some of them, you do have to keep in mind the cons you're adding to your weapon, but ultimately, these are going to be the most well-rounded attachments that will have your weapons feeling even more efficient in-game. Now, of course, different playstyles are going to benefit more with certain attachments. You know, aggressive versus passive playstyles are normally built on very different setups. So your playstyle is going to impact the best attachments for you when it comes down to it. But once again, I would highly recommend looking into all the attachments we highlighted today if you are trying to improve your classes. So with all of that being said, that is effectively going to wrap things up for today. If you guys enjoyed the video or if you just found it helpful, let me know by dropping a like rating on it, as it would be much appreciated. And of course, if you are new here and you want to stay up to date with everything going on in the world of Call of Duty, including all the latest news and intel, updates and leaks, and pretty much everything else in between, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. That way you'll always know when I post a new video. As always, if you do want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code IMMORTAL on all Scuff, G Fuel, Control Freak, and Respawn products. You can find all of those links listed down in the description below, and once again, thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.